Summer is in full swing, and whether you're heading to the beach, the mountains, or just putting on extra miles around town, make sure your vehicle's ready. Stop by Valvoline Instant Oil Change for a 15-minute drive-through oil change. Stay in your vehicle while trusted technicians change your oil, check your tires, lights, and essential fluids. No appointment needed. Valvoline Instant Oil Change, the easy choice for summer driving. Coupons at bayareaoilchange.com.
Welcome to the Universal Podcast Network. One voice, everywhere.
I am Alix, and welcome to Book 101 Review. Book 101 is all about the books that I read for the last 40 years. And today I have my special guest. Uncover hidden strength and building confidence. And of course, he's the author of the debut book, From Hidden to Limitless, none other than Mr. Alix Hogu.
Thank you for having me, Daniel.
Welcome, Mr. Alix, on Book 101 Review. And can you please introduce more by yourself that I missed?
Sure. Again, thank you for having me, Daniel. Appreciate it. I am a husband, a proud father, an entrepreneur. I'm the CEO of Five Diamond Fitness and Wellness, which is actually based here in Dallas. I'm also a confident coach, as well as the author of From Hidden to Limitless, The Secret to Reaching Your Highest Potential.
Well, what a nice introduction, Mr. Alix. Here in Book 101 Review, we salute you, we celebrate you for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to us as well as to the world. Thank you. And today, let's talk about your book itself. You say everything we've been thought about our self-improvement is backwards. That's a bold claim. What is the fundamental flaw in the way most people approach becoming better version of themselves?
Sure. I would say the reason, the idea of self-improvement is actually usually based on somebody else's standards, right? So if we're looking at, we have a tendency as a society, especially in the Western world, of looking at flaws over our strengths and strengths and skills, right? So in that regards, I think a lot of times improvement is usually based on fixing something, a flaw of yours, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with fixing flaws and getting better at something. But if it's something that's really not innate or within you, it's pretty much a talent or natural innate talent, to me, that kind of it kind of defeats the purpose of finding your purpose, really. So a lot of times, I go back to my first statement of, a lot of times we try to improve ourselves based on someone else's standards, whether it's a job or corporation, whatever the case may be. It's really to benefit others outside of ourselves. There's very rarely that we have a situation where we are asked to look inside ourselves within and then figuring out exactly who we are and how you can kind of extend your talents per se to society. So that's why I say many times that when we actually asked to improve ourselves, we really focus on the flaws, which is a lot of time based on external validation versus innate talents, which is almost like a strength-based kind of approach, right? So.
Well said. Mr. Alix, the self-improvement industry is built on the premise that you're broken and need to be fixed.
Right.
You're offering a different premise entirely. What's the shift you want in readers to make, and why is it so hard for people to make it?
Sure. I think most people, we live in a world where it's very hard to really look into our strengths and talents, or our hidden talents, I should say, And the reason why is because we tend to compare ourselves a lot of times with other people on whatever the case may be. So I think part of it too is there's two parts to this. There's a lot of part of it was validating or relying so much on external validation, which comes from a lot of comparisons. And the other factor is a lot of us suffer from imposter syndrome. We may have the confidence, but we lack the self-esteem per se to really trust in ourselves to know that we have those talents. So I think a lot of times, and a lot of those come from, again, just receive so much information at such a fast rate that we rarely have time to really sit down and dwell upon and reflect on who we are as individuals. So a lot of times we get in receiving information, we're on to the next thing. So again, it's all about, and I'm nothing's wrong with social media, nothing wrong with technology, but I think sometimes it could be a little distracting for many people in terms of really figuring out who you are, what you're made of, your strength, your talents, how you fit into this world. Because we receive those information at such a fast rate that it's really hard to really navigate to who you are. So unless you're a person that's extremely reflective and you kind of cut down all the noise, it is very rare that you find that individuals find themselves navigating through those hard questions, which a lot of times those are easy questions, but very profound questions that can really be life-changing.
Indeed. And Mr. Alex, you've watched people suppress their creative instinct in favor of security.
Your wedding begins here. You've found your person. Now find your perfect place. Welcome to Marin County, where your love story meets its perfect setting. Exchange vows beneath ancient redwoods on a sun-kissed beach or overlooking the sparkling San Francisco Bay. Whether you're planning an intimate elopement or a grand affair, Marin offers the space and the spirit to make your wedding uniquely yours. Discover where forever begins at visitmarin.org and explore the weddings page for details.
Societal expectations or perfections. What does that suppressions look like in a real life, not in theory, but in the day-to-day choices someone makes?
Sure. The first one is really about just feeling unfulfilled. You may, and then going back to my first statement about having self-confidence and self-esteem, there's a difference between the two. I think many times we tend to mix the two together. So I think many people have a lot of self-confidence in what they do, which is based on external validation, whether you're doing something for a corporation, a company that needs those kind of skill sets, versus self-esteem, which is actually really based on your worthiness, like your self-worth, right? So I think there's a huge difference between the two because one is almost like the foundational aspect of who you are, which is just self-esteem. And then the other one is really learn skills that you learn along the way based on whatever you think your path should be, or if it's something that's actually expected of you, whether it's a job or schooling or whatever the case may be. So I think really is just really navigating and really understanding and differentiating the two and figuring out ultimately what we want out of this life, and it's okay to have both, but sometimes you'll be surprised how many individuals have one or the other. And most of the time, believe it or not, it tends to be self-confidence over self-esteem, so they may have the confidence to, execute certain aspects of whatever their skill set is, but is that really an innate skill or something that they're really passionate about? And I think on the other hand, you have some people who actually have high self-esteem, but lack the confidence, so it's a really double-edged sword where you kind of have to really look into yourself and figuring out who are you. And I think a lot of the self-esteem really comes from your upbringing and your self-worth at an early age. And then the self-confidence really come at a later age where you start working and going to school and things like that. And so you start building skills that are learned, not necessarily skills that you have innate. For example, a skill that's really innate could be something as simple as your analytical skills. It's something that you do very well, that you may not know that you do it because you do it so often and so easily that you lose sight of that talent. But if you really delve into it, you'll realize that that's a talent that can really take you somewhere else and could be quite fulfilling as well in the long run.
Well said again, well said. Mr. Alex, why do so many successful people well still feel like they are failing? What's the gap between achievement and fulfillment that accomplishment alone can close?
Yeah, so I think part of it again is the imposter syndrome issue that's becoming more prevalent now. And then secondly too is just we've become a society where I don't want to say the word is it's not complacent, but we get in stuff so easily that it's very hard for us to really find ourselves. So again, in getting access to everything so easily, we trying to always in comparison and trying to validate who we are based on the standards that are placed upon us. So I think a lot of times it's just a matter of just, and this is a very hard one because it's something that you really have to break out of and really reflect on to really understand that while you're doing these things. So I think a lot of it is second guessing ourselves through imposter syndrome. We have the skills, we know how to do it, but we being compared with so many different, individuals, standards, and things change on a regular basis, like at a fast rate that we're always trying to keep up. And in keeping up, we often tend to lose ourselves, right? So I think a lot of that comes from just being, and this is a very cliche kind of an answer, but a lot of it comes from just being overly distracted by overload of information. So again, I don't know if you noticed, like I'm Generation X, so I want to say maybe my high school years, that's when I started using computers consistently, and obviously college. But prior to that, there was really a push for really learning things in your way, so to speak, where over time we've noticed that technology has created a system where there's a lot of reliance on technology, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but if it's left unchecked, it can really be a situation where we lose ourselves. We really kind of get distracted with information overload, which leads to a lot of comparison, a lot of external validation, and then those hidden talents are often, they pretty much dissipate on thin air without even us realizing it.
Mr. Alex, tell us, your book centers on the concept of signature strength. Define the term for us. So what's the signature strength that how is different from skill, a talent, or something you're simply good at?
Sure. A signature strength is something that is who you are in reality. And a lot of them tend to be very, very simple things. So, for example, one signature strength could be you have great leadership skills, but you may not know it. And when I say that can come at a very early age. People tend to come to you for advice. They gravitate to you. So that requires a certain charisma and a certain personality for people to feel so comfortable and trustworthy of you to come to you with those issues. So a lot of times we tend to have those skills that are pretty much natural skills that we kind of look at as, well, it's just who I am. It's just something that I do. But in reality, those are really who you are. Those are the skills or the strength that you have. That's actually who you are. That's your product. That's part of your personality versus the skills where, you can actually turn those skills into, let's go back. So we could actually learn skills are not necessarily strength sometimes, right? So you may decide, I'm going to go to college to learn this, but it may not be something that you really want to do. It could be something that you either being pushed to pursue or something that you feel like.
Summer is in full swing, and whether you're heading to the beach, the mountains, or just putting on extra miles around town, make sure your vehicle's ready. Stop by Valvoline Instant Oil Change for a 15-minute drive-through oil change. Stay in your vehicle while trusted technicians change your oil, check your tires, lights, and essential fluids. No appointment needed. Valvoline Instant Oil Change, the easy choice for summer driving. Coupons at bayareaoilchange.com.
Based on what I'm seeing, the trends is something that I should get into. In fact, I had another radio interview the other day, and I mentioned this in regards to AI. Kids now are really concerned about, is education really worth it? And I say absolutely, because, if you look at the creation of AI, that came from human intelligence, right? So a lot of times we tend to steer away from who we are, the strength that we bring to the table, and realize that everything is actually based from us, so going back to your first question, I think, it's really about just again, I know it sounds like a broken record, but really about just differentiating the noise and the distractions and really focusing on who you are. And a lot of time this comes from a place of disarray, unfulfillment, especially for adults, in the middle age group, that sometimes you may feel like, wow, is this who I am? Is this, I've been doing this for so many years. I'm not really fulfilled with this. How do I rediscover myself? Right. So a lot of times you have middle-aged people who actually go into that process of rediscovering themselves through such a process. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, because it's never too late. But I think, it's really about finding your inner strength, who you are on a most basic level, and then extending on those. Again, going back to my strength-based approach versus, a fixing a flaw kind of a mentality, which is something that has actually been taught from childhood to many of us, even from school, from grade school. So again, it's just a matter of just really understanding yourself. And that comes with a lot of reflecting, a lot of soul digging, to say the least, and to really understand who you truly are and what makes you smile, what sparks your interest in life, what gives you purpose. And I think I tied purpose into this because I feel like that's something that tend to ignite a lot of fire in a lot of individuals. Would you do this if you wasn't getting paid for it? Which is a very odd kind of a question, but is this something that you would be passionate about if you wasn't, receiving a salary or receiving payment for something like this? So again, that kind of leads to, okay, this is something that I'm passionate about. It's an inner strength. It's something that I'm great at, that I could actually increase on getting better, and then perhaps perfect it, and then utilized it to impact, my environment or the world, or whatever the case may be.
Mr. Alix, you offer 4 questions that can help someone uncover the signature strength.
Yeah.
Walk us through them, and what are the 4 questions, and why are they more revealing than a typical personality test?
Sure. I will start off with who would you be without an audience? And again, it's a lot of these are very simplistic questions, but they're very profound. Excluding everything, like who would you be without an audience? That's the first question, because that leads into you really digging into yourself and really looking at who you are, what you're made of, what are your talents, what do you like, what are your dislikes. The second question would be, how do you see yourself in this world? So this question really leads to impact, because a lot of time when we see ourselves in the scheme of things, we're trying to look at ourselves and try to augment who we are. But I think this question really brings you down to the basic, like how do you see yourself in the world? What impact would you bring to the world? The third question is, what are some values that are non-negotiable for you? That deals with more of like a principle kind of a question, where if you're a person that's really strict on your principles, that will shed a lot of light in regards to what you want out of those life versus what you don't want. And the last one will be, what kind of problems do you enjoy solving? Which goes back to my first question, my first statement in regards to people always coming to you for things like, for help or advice and things of that nature. So you got to look at all those 4 questions and kind of create a story behind that of who you are. And I think there's plenty more questions in the book. I think there's about 10 or 11, 10 questions altogether. But these 4 questions are really the core questions that will kind of lead to a self-discovery or a rediscovery for people, my age, older. And this book is really made for anyone, really, from college students, even late high school students, up until, your late 50s, early 60s. So it's actually written in a way where it's concise and almost like a guidebook, with really a call to action towards the end. So it's really based on where you are, and really understanding how it is really never too late to start. In fact, I have a university that just adopted the book for a course, a sociology course, 4 classes actually. So, that's going to be at a college level course. I think sociology 101 or something like that. And then I have also adults who, could utilize this book as a way for even parenting. I had people and readers, tell me, wow, this book really helped me, as far as parenting, because there's a part of the book where, he talks about family, especially in the beginning, in terms of my upbringing and things of that nature, that really resonated with a lot of, with some of the audience. So it's a very direct book, but it also delves with many different aspects of individuals, not just talents and hidden strength, but also family structures, and family structures and support.
Well said, and thank you for sharing those questions to us, Mr. Alex. And most of us have been, well, trained to focus on our weakness,
Right.
to shore up our deficits. What is the cause of the obsession, and what happened to someone who spent years trying to fix what's wrong instead of building on what is right?
Right. Um, so that's a hard question. So it's not really a hard question, but it's a question that really, there's many different results to this. So one result is really feeling unfulfilled in whatever your goals are. So emotionally exhausted, even sometimes physically exhausted. So if you're doing something and it's not really bringing you joy, eventually it's gonna.
Summer is in full swing, and whether you're heading to the beach, the mountains, or just putting on extra miles around town, make sure your vehicle's ready. Stop by Valvoline Instant Oil Change for a 15-minute drive-through oil change. Stay in your vehicle while trusted technicians change your oil, check your tires, lights, and essential fluids. No appointment needed. Valvoline Instant Oil Change, the easy choice for summer driving. Coupons at BayAreaOilChange.com.
Affect you emotionally as well as physically, and we see that a lot of times with, especially in the workplace, people who's gone through careers, not necessarily loving what they do, but because of the pay or because of something that that was the end thing at the time, and then they end up, for lack of better words, being stuck in that career. So part of it too is a lot of the signs will be unfulfilled, feeling unfulfilled, exhausted, and as well as just self-criticism, negative talk about yourself. Those are all aspects of someone who may feel like they've spent all their life focusing on the flaws, and then they later find out that, oh, I should have focused on my strength. I actually disregarded my strength altogether and really focus on the flaws, which is something that is really based on a standard that is placed upon us, which I said earlier. So lack of purpose is another one. Feeling like you lack a purpose, and this is a very popular one, especially among middle-aged group. You get to a point where it's like, okay, I'm doing this. I've done well with it, but what's my purpose? What's the impact? How has it impact others? Has it impact myself, for that matter? So a lot of time there's a feeling of discouragement that comes along with that. And I always say it's really, really, again, it sounds very, very cliche saying this, but it's really never too late to start again and rediscover yourself. It will require some homework. It definitely will require some work, but it's something that everyone could really attain if they really put the work. And we saw this happen during the pandemic as well. A lot of times we saw a lot of individuals, that situation made a lot of people look into themselves and say, wow, I can do this. A lot of businesses were created. A lot of entrepreneurs were created around that time. Many individuals got into, self-care. So it was a moment of reckoning where people really sat down and said, you know what, I need to really focus on me and what do I want out of this life? And I think this is something that's very, very important. So it doesn't have to take a tragic situation for that to happen. This can happen at any point of our lives, any age. It's just a matter of really understanding early enough, or at least to a certain extent, what you really want out of this life. I think that question alone will help you discover exactly how you fit into this world, really. Again, what you want out of this life. Like, is this fulfilling enough for you? Is your job fulfilling enough? Is who you are somebody that, there's a question that was posed recently, if who you are today, is that somebody that you want, that you as a kid will be friends with? It's a very, very basic question, but it's a very interesting one. As an adult, if you look at yourself today, would you be your own friend as a child or as a kid? And that question could really lead to a lot of lead to where we are. Because I know I asked myself that question. I'm like, okay, interesting. Maybe 40 years ago, no, not 40, 30 years ago, I probably would not be somebody that I would want to be friends with. But now, as an adult, knowing what I know and knowing myself well enough, I think I would absolutely be a friend of, if I was a child, I'll definitely, the person that I am today, I would definitely be a friend of that person. So again, those basic questions could really answer a lot of intricacies into our life, to really answer a lot of questions into who we are, our foundation, how we see ourselves in the world, and how we plan on perhaps making an impact.
Mr. Alex, to wrap up our discussion for today, give us an example of a signature strength someone might be ignoring or undervaluing because it doesn't look like achievement or a resume. What is strength that gets overlooked in our culture?
Sure. I'll take one, which is something that I actually discuss within my book, towards the end of the book, is emotional intelligence. And this is something that is becoming more of a talked about, strength, but it's not something that's learned. But some people have it innately. They just have a way of dealing with people, and through understanding themselves, that makes them really expert as far as being emotionally intelligent. So what I mean by that is, being emotionally intelligent, meaning that you are aware of other people's feelings as well as yourself. So a lot of times people who are innate, who have those innate skills or innate strength, tend to move around. They're very compassionate towards others, even to the point of almost like, having psychic powers, so to speak, for lack of better words, because they could read people's emotion before even others could even see it themselves. So in terms of that, they know how to self-regulate. So a lot of people tend to have those skills, which is, emotional intelligence has been around. The talk of emotional intelligence has been a while, around since 2011. That's when it really made a big, um, a lot of people started talking about it, books started being written about it. But I think more recently, I think more people are starting to really understand the concept of having true emotional intelligence, and which is really, it boils down to really, how do you self-regulate? How do you relate to others in a way that is compassionate while you regulating yourself as well in the process. So it's really, a lot of it has to do with understanding yourself and then understanding others through your eyes as well. So that could be a skill that's very easily dismissed, because you realize, okay, well, this is something that I do naturally. This is who I am. It's not really a skill. I'm a firm believer that you can turn any innate talent or strength into a skill. So just because something is something that comes to you naturally doesn't necessarily mean that it's not a skill set that you can use and utilize to better others. A lot of times too, there's a little bit of work that goes into that, where you actually have to do the homework and really figure out if this is really a strength. But this kind of begs the question a little bit. It kind of, begs the question like, okay, is this something that I should be curious about? Is this something I should kind of do a little bit more research on to see if this is actually a skill versus something that I just, a personality trait? Because a lot of personality traits are tied to skills. And I think a lot of times we tend to look at that as, we tend to dismiss those. But that's something that we really need to, if it's something that you do naturally and it's actually affecting lives, and people start telling you about these attributes that you may have, I think it's time to really start looking into it seriously and see if this is an actual strength of yours that you can utilize to better the lives of others.
Well, so Mr. Alex, can you please invite our listeners to support your book or another more books to come? So please do so.
Yes. So I'm working on, I can't say too much about it, but I am working on another book right now. And everything will be on the website, which is alixhogurights.com. That's ALIXHOGU rights with an S at the end.com. So yeah, anything that I would have in the future will definitely be on that website, and also on Amazon as well. But yeah, so there's plenty of other projects in the works. This was the debut book. This is something that I've been working on not too long, but something that's been on my mind for quite some time. And I felt like, this year was the year to put it out, because I felt like and the reason why is because I feel like, where we are right now, as a society, we kind of losing our way to a certain extent. We're losing our sense of self per se. And I think, it was the right moment, I think. And something was nudged me and said, you know what, now is the time to publish it and get it out there. And I'm very glad that I did, because apparently it's really resonating with a lot of people. And that was the whole point of the book, really, to really provide a different perspective on how to look at life and ourselves.
Well, congratulations, and looking forward for more of that book.
Thank you,
Mr. Alex.
Thank you very much.
Yes, so I have one more question before I will let you go. Please complete this sentence. If I could convince every reader of just one thing by the time they finish your book, it would be blank.
Sure. It would be, you have the power to change the world. You have the power to change the world through understanding oneself. And not to say too much about it, but towards the end of the book, there is a call to action. So yes. So never look at yourself as not valuable. You have absolute power to change yourself and the world.
Well said, Mr. Alex. And thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me, Daniel. Appreciate it.
Maricam people, see you soon. I will invite you again to please do come over on my abstract essay, and let's talk about the writing process of the book itself. Again, Mr. Alex, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for joining us on the Universal Podcast Network. One voice, everywhere.
Your wedding begins here. You've found your person. Now find your perfect place. Welcome to Marin County, where your love story meets its perfect setting. Exchange vows beneath ancient redwoods on a sun-kissed beach or overlooking the sparkling San Francisco Bay. Whether you're planning an intimate elopement or a grand affair, Marin offers the space and the spirit to make your wedding uniquely yours. Discover where forever begins at visitmarin.org and explore the weddings page for details.